I was getting on pretty well with my chicken dishes from last Tuesday, but then this past weekend was Easter weekend, which rather interrupted things. You can see here my Easter dinner of lamb with a mushroom gravy and some roast potatoes. Well, I did actually manage to take that mushroom gravy and use it with the chicken, and also to get back to the chicken, which I did spend most of last week working on. I made a total of 7 dishes, I believe, and they lasted a very long time because they were quite big dishes. They were more than enough for me for one meal, and you'll see later that my freezer is pretty stocked. I also made consommes. And today was my final day. I made a minestrone. And so that chicken has finally finished up its labors for me, or my labors with it. So let's get into it. At the beginning of the week, I was contemplating all the things I might do with the chicken, and I discovered some greens in the supermarket that were labeled spinach. And I wasn't convinced that it was real spinach, but I bought it and boiled it up with some potatoes. And I also put on the chicken to heat with a little bit of broth. And son of a gun, it really was spinach. I was so amazed because spinach is a cold weather crop. It doesn't grow in the tropics, so I don't know how they got it here. It certainly didn't grow here. But I made a really nice dish of chicken and potatoes and spinach, and I made a little bit of gravy, which you can't actually see in this photo, but I made a kind of au jus broth, I guess, and had an almost Sunday lunch kind of dish. And then the next day, one of my students gave me 2 kilos of mangoes. And I was quite thankful, of course, and lugged them home in my backpack on my bicycle. And I thought, well, might as well cook them up as well. I made mango and guava crumble, but I also made a chicken dish. Chopped up the mangoes, put them in a pot with some of the stock left over from cooking the potatoes, and boiled them down, and then added some curry spices and some chili. And then when they were suitably soft, which took quite a bit of time actually, because the mango that I used was not quite ripe, but then put it in my skillet and simmered it up with some paprika and other spices, added the chicken, made some rice, and we've got mango chicken. And then the next day, I still had plenty of the mango chicken left over and the rice left over, so put the rice and the chicken together and fried them up and had a second day of mango chicken. And then I moved on to arroz con pollo. So I'm getting close to the end of my week. Got a couple of days of chicken meat left, I think. Maybe a little bit more, but certainly 2 days. And today I'm making an Argentine version of arroz con pollo, which if you learned Castilian Spanish, you will pronounce arroz con pollo. Anyway, this is Argentinian, and I'm not making it in the traditional way because I've already got cooked chicken and cooked rice. So I'm just going to put ingredients together. I'm starting by sweating some onions. I'm going to add some garlic. Then I'm going to add my rice and chicken and peas. I'm going to color the rice with achote. You have a choice here, really. Some Argentinos don't color the rice. They have it white, and some do. So I'm coloring it. And then finally, a tomato-based stock to bind everything together. And then I'll show you some of the process, and then I'll show you the results. Now, this is not remotely traditional, but it's the simplest way for me to get the dish cooked. I've added some tomato-based stock to the pot with the onions and garlic and some peas. They're frozen peas, so I want to thaw them out. And next I'm going to add some rice and some chicken and just gently simmer it together. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to overcook the rice. But cook it enough so that everything is combined and we'll have an untraditional arroz con pollo. So I added some cooked rice to this mix, but I thought maybe I should just go back and explain why this is untraditional and how it's normally made. Normally you sweat the onions, add raw rice and raw chicken, usually cut into pieces with the bone in, and then you add the tomato-based stock and you cook everything all together. And when it's all done, you then serve it. The rice absorbs all of the stock and that kind of thing. But I had cooked chicken and cooked rice, and so I had to make my stock and peas and onions, and then I added rice, and then I added chicken, stir it all together, and you have untraditional arroz con pollo. At this point, Easter intervened, and I ended up making an Easter Sunday dish of lamb and roast potatoes and mushroom gravy, using in part the juices from the lamb, but also some extra herbs and spices. And I kept the gravy because I knew that I was going to also use it for the chicken. So just after Easter, I had to have lamb yesterday because it was Easter Sunday, and so I couldn't keep going with chicken. But I put the bones back in some broth and put them on with some extra water for one more boil, because I'm going to make a consommé. I'm going to boil down very, very slowly and continuously until I have a double consommé. Now I'm going to clarify, I'm going to do all the things that I may have actually done before already, but I'm going to do it again for the chicken. I've still got some chicken left over, and I've got some broth and gravy that I'm just heating up here. I'll do a little more with that in a bit. This was the gravy I used for the lamb yesterday. Well, I'm gonna recycle it and put the chicken in, and that will pretty much complete our week. And it's been an amazing week, and I've actually got some stuff in the freezer still, so the chicken has lasted more than 1 week. So here's that lamb gravy now thoroughly boiling with some extra mushrooms, and I'm going to roast some potatoes, and this will be my lunch today, and I'll have the consomme as well, I expect, or I may freeze it. I've actually got quite a bit in the freezer, so my chicken has actually lasted, I think, something in the region of 10 to 12 days. Last hurrah here, I'm going to make a kind of minestrone. I've got some black-eyed peas and broth and tomato sauce. I'm going to put them to simmer for a while, then I'm going to add some pasta and the chicken, so it'll be a kind of a chicken minestrone. The herb I'm using is oregano. Very, very classic Italian. And just wanted to show you my freezer, so we'll go over there. And you can see, not very clearly, but you can see here is my consomme, the lentils, and 3 different dishes that I am using chicken for, or did use chicken for, and I had so much that I had to freeze them. And I'm going to be doing the same with the minestrone. So the chicken in total probably will make about 15 meals. I boiled the black-eyed peas for about an hour. They needed to soften. I boiled them initially in stock and tomato sauce, and then when they were softened, I added some leeks and also some green pepper and some carrots. Next, I added some fusilli, which I then stirred into the broth. I had to add a little more broth, in fact, and cooked the fusilli in the broth. Finally added the chicken, which was already cooked, so I didn't need to cook it anymore. Stirred all around, and there we have chicken minestrone. So if you've liked this video, then I wish you would like and subscribe, tell your friends, and on Friday I'll be back with more philosophy.